Okay, folks, welcome to another Nice and Nasty. It's been a while, haven't you, grown? Anyway, I've got an absolute corker for you, no pressure. I've got the wonderful Alastair or Ali Low from your company is called
Games.
Lowtek Games. Excellent. How you doing, Ali?
I'm doing really good. Thanks for having me on.
No, it's my pleasure to have you on. Obviously, we did catch up down in Play Blackpool. When would that be?
Yeah, a couple of years ago now.
Yeah, 2022. Yeah, they liked me that much. They never invited me back, so I don't know what.
It's fine. They didn't invite me to speak again either.
I think we'll need. I think we need to come up with our own Scottish version anyway. So yeah. Is life treating you well?
Yeah, it's pretty good. Just working away as usual.
Good stuff. So just before we kind of, well, you know what the Nice and Nasty is about. You get to pick kind of 6 games, bad games, good games, and then you explain it. I always just like to kind of spend sort of 20 minutes, half an hour, just getting a wee kind of flavour for what you're about. So where do you hail from, Alastair? Obviously the Scottish accent like myself. You're not from the England or anything like that.
Yep, I'm from Bonnybridge originally. And I think we'll probably be quite Scottish throughout this whole thing, won't we? The Scottish accent definitely makes it a bit more thick, doesn't it, when you hear somebody else saying it? But yeah, Bonnybridge, UFO capital of the.
I was just going to say that it's a hotbed capital of the world. Apparently, what's the reason for that?
It appeared on QI at one point as one of these random facts, and they said it was because there was 5 major flight routes went over Bonnybridge, and people just kept reporting planes as UFOs.
Right. Okay.
But I don't know. Other people have got some stories and stuff. There were some people that said that they saw big lights and then they disappeared really quickly and that kind of thing. I never really saw anything.
Well, that could quite simply be somebody getting up in the middle of the night to go for a piss. They put the toilet light on and then they switch it off again. I mean, actually, just
when Pokemon Go was a thing, I really wanted to make UFO Go, where like you point the camera at the sky and it shows a UFO augmented and you need to go collect them all, but I never got around to actually making it. I made a prototype, but I never went further.
So the big question, have you ever seen an unidentified flying object?
Yeah, but it wasn't in Bonnybridge. It was in Plean or something on the way home.
Oh, right, okay, yeah. Plean, I know that quite well. It's not far from Stenhousemuir.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and was there any substances taken beforehand?
No, I was a child at the time, so I might have just been sleepy. Could have been the moon for all we know.
Yeah, actually, where I stay in Livingston, that's actually I'm literally 5 minutes away from a place called Dechmont Wood, which it's also a kind of forestry area, and it was a scene of what is apparently still the only UFO criminal investigation. There was a guy called Bob Taylor. I think it was about 1977, 78, something like that. I think it was. And he was a forestry worker for what was the Livingston Development Corporation before it became West Lothian Council. And he was up doing his kind of patrol, and he had his dog with him. And he entered this sort of like woody opening, and he saw what he tells us he saw was like a sort of UFO of sorts. And then these two kind of balls, giant balls with spikes, came rolling towards him. He then passed out. And then when he came to, his clothes were all ripped and tattered. The dog was barking, and he managed to kind of crawl his way back to his Land Rover before kind of getting help. Apparently, I think the police, etc., got involved, and they said that they could see the marks in the ground. So if you imagine a ball with spikes in it rolling along, you're going to get spikes in the ground. There was indentations of these. There was also indentations like sort of maybe 20 feet away of something extremely heavy, and there was no like marks in the ground anywhere else. So what they said was it's been brought in from above. So it's an interesting one. And actually, I used to, well, I still do know him technically. I used to know somebody that worked with this Bob Taylor, and Bob Taylor would be mid-60s at that point. And he says he's like the most kind of doer. Very good Scottish word that. Very, very doer. He's not a particularly sociable person. He says he'd be like the last person ever to make something up. And indeed, after it happened, he actively avoided any publicity. You know, I mean, if he could have quite happily probably gone on the David Letterman show and all this kind of stuff, but he chose to kind of not do anything. There is a couple of videos on YouTube, which was, I think it was a documentary that he eventually agreed to make. But aye, it's interesting. It's interesting.
It's
So
really
there must be something to do with Scotland and UFOs. I don't know what's going on. So anyway, yeah, what's your kind of history, Ali? I mean, I'm not going to ask your age. I mean, I know you're considerably younger than myself. How did you? What was your first kind of experience of computer games?
I grew up and I just picked up a whole bunch of stuff at car bits and stuff, like NES, Master System were the kind of main thing. We got a hand-me-down Amiga from my mum's friend as well.
Not a bad hand-me-down, that, eh?
Yeah, pretty good. It came with a whole box of like basically pirate stuff as well. So,
I'm glad you said that. Actually, yeah. I mean, it's so. What kind of year are we talking about? So, I mean, what was your very, very first? I mean, when you were born, did your dad have a computer? Were games?
No,
video
they didn't
games?
have any kind of stuff like that. I wasn't. It was just from seeing friends and stuff play and picking up stuff cheap at the car bit.
Yeah.
But I'm technically, like, my birth year is actually an interesting one because it was the same as Sonic and the commercial internet. So I'm all the Sonic and the internet.
You were born the same time as Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. God, you make me feel fucking old. Jesus. I mean, I still. It's funny because people talk about like next gen and PlayStation 5 and all that kind of stuff. I've been doing YouTube for quite a number of years, and people get extremely upset if I dare to feature like a Sega Mega Drive game because that's far too recent. And I mean, I wouldn't say it. I mean, I don't look upon the Sega Mega Drive as recent hardware, but certainly like PlayStation forwards, I look upon that as kind of too modern.
That's the point where you don't call it retro anymore in your brain, but it probably is.
Yeah. It's so you are considerably younger. So what was your first system? What was
I think probably the NES. It was between the NES and the Master System.
Right, and
it was probably NES, and I remember I bought NES with Rob for £3 at the car boot.
Oh, for how much? £3?
£3, yeah. £3 my magic number. It keeps coming back. I got a Neo Geo with CD at the car boot in Glasgow for £3 once because he thought it was a broken CD player.
Unbelievable.
Don't know how it even made its way there. It was like a import. So.
That's incredible. So the guy thought it was a broken CD player.
Yep.
I suppose you would. I mean, the thing is, if you went up to like the local shopping centre and you stopped 100 people, it would not surprise me if nobody knew what a Neo Geo was. And
and it was one of those guys that just does like house clearances or whatever anyway. So
yeah.
Know what it was.
£3, awesome. Have you still got it?
Yep. It was no really working when I got it, but it just needed a fuse replaced in the transformer. I sat on it for years thinking, I'll fix it one day, and then one day just broke that open and it worked. So.
God, I don't know how much you'd pay for something like that now. I mean, retro prices is just
a couple £100 at least, yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, prices for stuff nowadays is just absolutely insane. So yeah, the NES was kind of your first kind of delve into video games. What was your favorite NES game?
Mario 3. I remember my friend's cousin or something up the road was really bigging up Mario 3, and then I managed to get a copy of it myself. That and like Zelda and stuff, we played that a lot. But I was back before I could read. Well, I still can't read that well. So it was just the golden cartridge. And it was years before I realised that was the same like game series on Ocarina of Time and stuff.
Right.
I do remember playing like Castle of Illusion and a lot of Alex Kidd and stuff as well.
Yeah, but was that on the Master System?
Master System, yeah.
And then did you eventually upgrade to the Mega Drive? Or?
I did. I had my friend's Mega Drive in the shed, but it got nicked one day, which was a bit annoying. But I never really got into the Mega Drive or the SNES as much. I don't know. Like they were like the sprites were bigger and the levels were more zoomed in, so they were, I don't know, harder to play for me. Like the NES and the Master System, just I liked the games better on those.
Yeah. Well, so what is the most like the more powerful out of the two then, out between the NES and the Master System?
Oh, the Master System's more powerful. It's got
Is it?
you can do loads more colors on it and stuff.
Yeah.
On the screen at once. But it's weird. It seems like it bridges the gap between the two kind of generations in that way. Because you look at a screenshot, you're like, that could be Master System or Mega Drive, but it's better than NES.
Yeah. So you never. So I mean, what kind of year are we talking about? What age would you have been at that point when you first got these in?
I have no idea. Like maybe 5, maybe slightly before 5.
Yeah.
Probably
That's
younger, but yeah.
not a bad introduction to video games, eh? I mean, I had to wait bloody 15 years before the computer was invented. You know what I mean? Absolutely insane. So presumably you didn't, when you got to like 16, 17, were you still playing the Master System in NES, or had you kind of moved on to PC, or no? You say you got a second hand Amiga.
Yeah, the Amiga got left by the wayside. I picked up occasionally just to play some random games like Bill's Tomato Game and Lemmings or whatever. But
Yeah.
it takes ages to load. So I was always into the kind of stuff, and then modding and like fixing stuff, that kind of thing. That never really went away. Like kept all my old systems and stuff, but did kind of go up through the generations as well. And I had a lot of fun on the kind of PS2 era.
Yeah, no, awesome. So, how did you get? I mean, how obviously you've got Lowtek Games. How did that kind of come to be? At what point did you decide that you want to start kind of programming games?
Well, I was making games like back when I was in primary school as well. I found this piece of software called the Games Factory. It was in a bargain bin in the Toys R Us in Glasgow for £1, I think, and it was great. Just
You're the
nice,
bargain man, aren't you? Bloody hell!
Yeah, I like a bargain. That's me. I'm typical Scottish.
I mean, so you got, so what was it? You got a Neo Geo CD. You got, what was the other thing for £3?
Rob and Ness.
Yeah, you got that. Plus you got the thing. So I mean, you spent like £7
Yeah,
on like that.
what a great childhood, eh?
Insane. So anyway, sorry. So you got this Games Factory thing. So what is that? What does that run on then?
It runs on PC. Again, we had a hand-me-down PC from like a friend of my mum's or whatever, and I didn't have the internet or anything, but the tool itself has a whole bunch of like training tools built in and like example projects. So I managed to make a few things. I remember making like a Halo remake, like kind of top-down thing, a game called Nintendo Dragons based on Nintendogs, and a few other bits and bobs like that. But it was a really cool piece of tool. It's basically what Click Team Fusion is these days. It's kind of an evolution of that. But that was really, really good. And then I went to university to do games art, college and university, because I'm really dyslexic.
Nice.
I went through college to get to uni, that kind of thing. And then kind of focused on more art side of things, but I do a bit of coding. Like I know enough code to get by, like, but it's not good code. And then got a job straight out of university at a company called Ninja Kiwi. They make mobile games. They're best known for Bloons Tower Defense and a few others like that. And then during the pandemic, I quit to start Lowtek Games because I thought it was the best time to quit during a global pandemic.
Yeah. So I mean, Lowtek Games. So when did that start? Well, you're talking about the pandemic. It's interesting.
I had like Lowtek, the website and stuff since high school. Like I bought lowtek.co.uk all the way back then. But the first game released was in 2019, I think, and it was a familiar fairy tale dyslexic text-based adventure, which was a game that simulates the frustration of being dyslexic in a text-based adventure game. So it's a weird one. It's funny. It's not a fun game, but it's a good teaching tool to kind of highlight the problems that dyslexics face in games.
So I think you did touch on there. So you're dyslexic yourself then?
Yeah, really dyslexic, and there's always been a problem. Like I think I hide it quite well, but I'm really not very good at reading. So whenever I get a message or whatever, I get my computer to read it for me now. Just saves me the stress.
Right, okay, right. So, what was your first? I mean, so Lowtek Games, is it just yourself, or do you have other people that kind of work for you? Or
It comes and goes. It's me as the core kind of team, and then I like freelance in or like collaborate with other people, and they're usually from around the world as well, depending on what funding I get for the game. Like if it's a Kickstarter or that, and each game's different. Whether it's a royalty split with someone, if it's like Tapeworm and stuff was more of a royalty split.
And what was your very first game that you published then?
It would have been that dyslexia one, but I'm
Uh-huh.
trying to think what the first NES one was definitely Flea. I'd published like smaller little games before. I think one of the first games I probably put up on the App Store was the initial version of Flea, which was on mobile on Android back in, I don't know, it would have been 2011, 2013, somewhere between there.
So you made that for mobile. How does it differ between making a game for like a mobile as opposed to like sort of like hardware like an NES? And how does?
Oh, it's really different.
Yeah.
Well, the tools just didn't exist to do the NES stuff at a level that I could do, because again, not a very good programmer. But I think in 2019 or maybe 2018, NES Maker, when I first heard about that kind of changed everything. I just went through the tutorials of NES Maker, so it's kind of like what the Games Factory was, but for making NES games. There's not that much coding involved. You can do more coding stuff under the hood if you want. But I was just going through the tutorials and then remembered that game that I made where the character always jumped and he was a flea. I was like, I'll try that on this. That'll be a cool wee twist on it. And then posted that online, and people really seemed to like it. And then went crazy with all the puns around like fleas and parasites, and that's where tapeworm and stuff came from. And then what was it? There was a thing happening where the Polymega, that weird console that lets you play a whole bunch of different games.
Oh yeah. I forgot all about that one actually. Yeah, I do vaguely remember it.
Downgraded what it was. It was supposed to be FPGA, but then they moved it to like emulation in the end. But there was a call from the NES Maker community to have some of our games built into it, so that kind of pushed me to finish off the demo and put it up on there. So if you get a Polymega, Flea is on there, but it's a very, very early demo. And then from that, we ran a Kickstarter. I wanted to run a Kickstarter because I wanted to do the pop-up book thing that I'm kind of working on right now, but didn't want that to be my first Kickstarter. So I thought a smaller one, like a NES game, would be quite good. And it was kind of on the rise of like a whole bunch of NES games kind of getting kickstarted. I think it was the second NES game kickstarted that was made with NES Maker. And we're one of the first to ship. I think we might have been the second to ship, because there was 2 or 3 kind of launched at the same time and had a similar kind of release window.
Nice. And that was so what I mean, I'm looking at your website here just now. So what systems do you support then? I mean, you've got Dreamcast and NES. Is there any other ones? I mean, you do Steam as well, don't you?
Yeah, it's on Steam. Tapeworm is the one that's on the most platforms for us at the moment. It's on NES, Dreamcast, I suppose Steam counts all that stuff. It's on Itch as well, but that's just the PC version again. And then it's on PS4, PS5, Xbox One, and Switch, and Playdate. Well, I never.
What was that last one?
Playdate.
Oh right, I'm not familiar with that.
It's a new kind of Game Boy type thing with a crank on the side.
Oh well, is that? It's a tiny little console.
Yeah, I've usually got one in my pocket just because it's a really easy thing to carry around.
Yeah. There's a mate of mine's, Matt Sefton. He's kind of done a bit of kind of coding for that. Yeah, when I was down at, I think it was, in fact, it was probably when I met you actually. That was the last time I was down at Blackpool, and there was somebody selling one of these. It was like like a little, it's got a little crank thing on it. That's I think they're quite expensive. They're not. I'm sure. I thought, how much is that? Thinking he's going to say like
£200, yeah.
Aye, I thought
it's expensive what they are, but
it's
quite a boutique thing, and it's a really nice community. And yeah, I've made a decent amount of money from the games that we've released on it.
No, that's good. That's good. So I'm looking here. I mean, Flea was your first kind of main game. Well, obviously you had the text adventure. You've got Flea 2. When does that get released?
Just before this call, I did basically the final run through. Nothing crashed. Everything worked. So we might put a pin in that game now, and that's it. Done. So I'm just trying to get all the print media ready for that to send it off to manufacture.
Fantastic.
And then hopefully it'll start manufacture kind of next month.
Yeah. So do you actually offer like tangible games, physical copies of these games?
Yeah, we do physical copies.
Yeah. And how do they sell in comparison to like the digital downloads then?
There's probably more digital ones sold than the physical ones, but people really like having the physical thing. And I usually give a version of a digital version of it with the physical as well.
So they can play that, and then they can keep their Flea shrink wrapped and then sell for lots of money later on. Yeah, I mean it's funny. The retro kind of gaming collecting scene is very, very fickle. You know, people will pay daft amount of money. I mean, I know a guy. I'll not mention his name, but I know a guy that he actually put a bid of, I think it was £1,800 for this Vic 20 game. Presumably you've heard of the Vic 20, even though that came out about 40 years before you were born. And the game was absolutely shit, and he didn't actually win. He didn't actually win the game. Somebody else bought it. I mean, people. I'm not really a collector. I mean, I have got a lot of games in this, but I don't buy games for collecting's sake. You know,
Me too. I don't go for the high ticket stuff. I get happy when I find them and for cheap, and that's kind of the thrill in it, isn't it? Finding the gems for cheap.
I mean, don't get me wrong. There is nothing. Nothing can beat, you know, holding a tangible game, looking at it, looking at the instructions and all that kind of stuff.
There's some I've got that I'd say I picked up reasonably cheap. Like I bought a couple CDIs with a bunch of games, and they like managed to get all the really expensive CDI Zelda games. Sold a couple of them, but I'm still holding on to the really expensive one. But it's up on eBay, and one day someone will pay me £1,500 for it or something. So until then, it can sit in my collection.
I mean, I'm looking to start to kind of downsize my collection, because I mean I've been collecting kind of hardware now for about I don't know, early 2000s. Yeah, in fact, probably about 2000 actually, if not even before that. And I mean I've got a lot of stuff, you know, but it's getting to the stage now. I mean I don't play that many video games. I like talking about them, but I've got a Mister, which is, it's to me that's an absolute game changer. It's just like, you know, I sold my Amiga recently. People are like, oh, how can you sell your Amiga? I says, because I can play all the Amiga games. I'm not, you know, people buy all these bits of hardware and they put accelerators in them and they put this in them and that in them. And I'm like, you know...
Yeah, and it's faster to play it on the Mister or whatever anyway. You don't need to wait for all the load times.
Oh, the Mister's an absolute game changer. I mean, I think I will get to a stage probably 10 years down the line where that'll be the only thing I've got, and it's like, you know, it's absolutely perfect. But
yeah, there was a while at university, like I didn't bring all the old consoles with me, but I did have a Crystal Xbox that was chipped.
I've still got one of them, and it's
emulators and stuff on it. I got that in the car boot for £8 in Glasgow. It was great, but it had a whole bunch of emulators on it. You can just kind of send ROMs over. So that was the way I like to play things. During university, and it was good because the Xbox has got 4 controller ports, so any kind of 4 players you could play couch co-op with friends and stuff.
I did a video probably 10 years ago, and it was like, I still think that the Xbox is still one of the best emulation things you could possibly get. I mean, it was emulating stuff. I mean, it can even run like the Sharp X68000, and you know, the Xbox. I mean, was that not like a Pentium 60 or something? It's like really, really ancient technology, but it's I've got.
It was very well supported, yeah.
Oh yeah. So I say that still proudly sits underneath my telly in the living room. I don't really use it that much, but that was a great thing. So there's always a bit of a kind of a pattern forming. You had Flea. You got Tapeworm, you got Flea 2. Are you going to be bringing out like a wasp or a tick? You need to bring out tick, because they're the most infernal, horrible things ever.
There is ticks in Flea, but I might change the design because I want to make them something different. But I call them ticks in the manual at least. And weirdly, I got a tick bite going to America once and didn't realise, and then landed and had to go through the American healthcare service. So that was a bit of a pain.
Oh, they're horrible things. So is your software company, is that a full-time job, Ali?
Yeah, it's been full-time. I've had a few kind of freelance jobs here and there throughout running Lowtek. There was one year where I basically was just full-time freelance for another company. Which was really good because it kind of skilled me up a bit. I felt like I'd fallen off, like learning some of the newer tools and stuff. So it got me back into like proper high-end sculpting and stuff for ZBrush and using Substance Designer, Substance Painter. So it was really good. I basically got to learn on the job and get paid quite well for it.
No, that's grand. It's nice to
hear and that game, because it's not got enough publicity. It's called Dungeon Golf. It's a really fun game. It looks really nice. It's again a kind of couch co-op mini golf game that has a whole bunch of like bards and wizards and stuff, and they've all got their own powers and that. It was a really fun game to work on.
Fantastic. And these are all available in Steam. I'll need to have a look at some.
Yeah, that one's not by me. That one's Ant Workshop. I knew some people that worked there, and just kind of came recommended to them. So really cool to work there.
No,
this came at the right time where I was thinking about looking for like actual jobs again. Anyway.
So how long have you been actually? How long has Lowsoft existed for? Lowtek. I beg your pardon. I keep calling you Lowsoft. Lowtek.
We actually filed for the company in 2020. I think so. That's the official incorporation date. But it had been kind of running without any like actual real games published for it for a while before. So I've had the Lowtek name since high school. So
no, that's great. So I mean, you're saying you're more kind of graphic design rather than coding. Then is that the case?
More graphics and game design. Yeah.
And who does the actual coding part of it then?
It depends on the project. I've had a couple kind of junior coders through like government grants and that kind of thing for the kind of non-NES stuff, and just random people on the internet basically that have helped for the other stuff. Dale Coop, one of the kind of NES maker champions. He just helps everybody all the time. He's a really nice guy. He was my first interaction on the NES maker forums. I think like many, he just said, "Oh, that's looking really good," and then kind of encouraged me to go along. And he's became quite a big part of Flea 2. Like on Flea 1, I tried to do some of the stuff myself and then just ask on the forums. But it was usually just Dale replying, and then Dale just kind of fixed all the stuff at the end. So for Flea 2, I just kind of asked him to do stuff, and he just did it. So I didn't mess about with it as much because I knew he'd probably just fix it anyway. So but no, he's really good. And then there was for Tapeworm, it was a guy called Valdir Salgueiro. He's in Brazil. Which is really weird because there's a bit of a language barrier there. He says he doesn't speak good English, but
no, you said neither do I. I'm Scottish.
Yeah, but it's we only talked a couple times on Discord or whatever to play some games, but it's funny how we like he got on. He knew exactly what I was meaning. Like I made a design doc with a whole bunch of pictures and GIFs and stuff about how I wanted stuff to work, and most of the time he got it done like first time, and he was super fast. So it was great to work with. We used him for Tucci Mimic as well.
So how do you pick? When you're devising a brand new game, what platform would you write it for initially?
It depends what it fits. That's a thing. Like Flea was just because NES Maker was there and it kind of fit. Tapeworm was a spin-off of Flea because there was a Tapeworm in Flea. But I wanted it to be a game for the Playdate. I designed it as a thing for that because it's got the crank on the side. So I thought you're this worm inside a cassette tape, and then you go down a path like a puzzle game, and then you wind them back in by winding the crank back. And then the SDK for the Playdate took way too long to come out, but we knew it could be programmed in C. We're like, we can also program NES in C, so let's make it for NES, and then we'll port it afterwards. So we put that as a stretch goal on the Kickstarter to make the Playdate version, and then as soon as the Playdate SDK dropped and I got my Playdate, we had it up and running within like 2 weeks, like ready to go.
Yeah.
So it was really good, and we were technically, I think, probably the first game you could pre-order for the Playdate because it was part of the Kickstarter campaign.
So when you, how do you decide what? I mean, presumably, like Flea's not out in every single system. How do you decide what one you're going to port across? How does that come
It's
about?
whatever is easy. So we did Dreamcast because I had remembered at school my friend gave me a burnt disc that just said NES games, like on the bus.
I think I remember that one as well, actually.
Yeah. And I was like, that's a NES emulator on Dreamcast. I wonder if that's still available. Looked it up, and it was just like an open source repository that we could modify and make it nicer. So a friend of mine was doing some Dreamcast stuff, and I just asked him to look into that, and he made it nicer, and then we released that to the public because it was open source, had to stay open source to let other people use it for their projects. So there's been a few other NES games released on Dreamcast after that using our tool, which was really cool.
And again, obviously, you can't get a digital download. Well, I suppose you technically could offer a digital download and then somebody has to burn it onto a CD. But
if you get it on itch, there is that it does do the CDI image, and then you can load that on your console through like the GDMU or any of those type of things as well now. And then the modern console ports are basically just emulators as well. There was kind of a race for people to see who could get their NES games on all the consoles first, and there was a whole bunch of whispers behind the scenes of who's got what, who's working on what, and it led to there was two really, but Ratalaika was the ones that I ended up going with. I'd heard that they were doing some emulation tech, and I think they were just about to launch Turrican Collection, and it was basically the same emulator, the same emulation system, even though it's a different console that they kind of used for that. And then I was talking to another NES guy at the time, and he showed me a screenshot. I was like, "Wait a minute, are you using these guys?" And so we came out at a very similar time, but it was really good just to get it out there on the things. I would have liked a slightly nicer interface on those things, but there's some nice quality of life. So I think it's got like rewinds and save states and that kind of thing, which makes it a lot easier for those players, and it's really cheap as well. It's only like £6 or £7 on the modern consoles for the both games at part of Parasite Pack as well.
So how easy or difficult was it to get like Sony to how many hoops do you have to jump through to get your game on like the Sony store and that kind of stuff?
There's so many hoops to do if you do it all yourself. So that's why I went through like a publishing partner.
Right.
I'd liked a whole bunch of games that they did and stuff, and they had a reasonably easy portal to kind of message them, and that they were really honest with how long lead times and stuff would be. Like it'll be a few months before we can even look at it, type thing. But no, they were really good. I would work with them again, and royalty payments just keep coming through the door. So that's really good.
Fantastic. That's what you're after. So is there any like platform that you don't have any games on that you would like to look at getting out?
There's loads.
Yeah.
Loads and loads. I want to do something on Sega. I don't think I've not seen any for the Master System. That would be the best. But I've been looking at Scorpion Engine recently for Mega Drive and Amiga, and then I was talking to the guy who makes that, Eric, and I just bought a Sega Pico recently, and he was like really excited to try to get it working on Scorpion, and we did a few tests and got it up and running. So that might happen. Be one of the first homebrews on Sega Pico, but absolutely no one would buy it.
What's it called? Sega Pico.
Sega Pico. Yeah, it's like like an educational game system from Sega back in the 90s. It came with these cartridges that had books attached to them. And it was basically a Mega Drive inside it. If you go to the Play Expo, they've usually got one on display, and it's got a Sonic game plugged in.
Right.
Which is really cool. So I would really want to do that, but that would just be a vanity project because like no one would buy it.
Yeah. Too obscure. What about giving the old Vectrex a go? I think Flea could.
I don't know. So that bit's a wee bit too limited for me, I think.
Yeah.
Plus, they're really expensive as well. Yeah, I don't know.
They are. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm really lucky. I've actually got two Vectrexes. Well, you greedy bastard. But the reason I've got two, I did have 3, and I've sold one for a couple £100. But the reason I've got 2 is because it's my favourite console. I don't actually play it that much, but it's just it's an utter thing of beauty, and I've not got the knowledge or the skills to fix it. So if it ever broke, I've got a spare one there. You know what I mean? But yeah, I mean,
I'd like to do the CDI. That is another thing. Like when I do old games for systems, I want them to be able to run without modifying the hardware. That's why the NES and the Dreamcast were ones I kind of went for.
Yeah.
And the CDI is in a similar thing where you can just run kind of pirated games on it. So we'd do that.
Would you ever consider like a Game Boy card?
Yeah, Game Boy as well. GB Studio is really, really good. I keep starting like a Flea spin-off in GB Studio, and then they release a new version which is incompatible with all the edits I've made. So I kind of restart again every time it happens. But I don't know. It might be the next one. I did try to make one about again a spin-off of Flea, so not the main character, but it was an itch hiker from Flea. And it was going to be like a kind of climbing game, but I didn't make it fun yet. So there wasn't anything unique enough about it. So I'll need to go back to the drawing board on it. But GB Studio, I could do a whole bunch of nice transitions and stuff, and I was kind of getting stuck in the tech, and that got really complex because it's again quite a visual editor, which makes it hard to do complex things for a whole game type thing. And then the other one, I did do a little bit of stuff on N64 for some N64 jam a couple years ago, but we just got to the point where we were like rendering a character on screen and it was animating and it could attack things, and that was about it. And then the jam ended. So I would really like to do a proper 3D thing at some point with that N64 low poly style, because it brought me back to what I was doing when I came into the games industry in mobile. And it was around the 3GS, the iPhone 3GS era. So it could do 3D, but it was still kind of rudimentary and really needed optimizing stuff. And if we were doing characters that if you need to draw lots of them on screen, I really like that optimization of like low poly stuff. And that's just what the N64 is all about. So.
Yeah. Awesome. I mentioned to you a couple of weeks ago, we were at my daughter and I were through at the Game On exhibition in Edinburgh, and my daughter was playing Flea, and I'm like, I know the guy that wrote that. She went, oh, really? How did they contact you to ask?
Yeah, they contacted me. I'd never. Weirdly, I saw the Game On exhibit back in 2002 when it started in Edinburgh, and it's just been kind of touring since then.
Yeah,
and it was a really good exhibit back then. I remember like the layout and everything. They had the hot rod from Brutal Legend in it.
Oh yeah. It
was so cool, and a whole bunch of like nice artwork and stuff along the wall. So for it to come back and me be part of it, I was really, really happy. But apparently, it just came from a whole bunch. Like they talked to a whole bunch of game developers and like arcades and stuff in Scotland, and they all just kind of mentioned me. So I just got there from kind of word of mouth. So what my publicity has been working.
Yeah, there's a lot of kind of Scottish stuff. I mean, there's like the Rockstar thing in that as well, which is really good. But I mean, it's definitely worth it. I think I went to the original one. It was in the Barbican down in London, and myself and my dad went down to it. Well, my dad didn't go. He went. I don't know where he went, but
yeah. Me at the Edinburgh one. Yeah, my dad went to something else.
But yeah, it's good. I mean, there's a lot there. There's a lot of machines, and it's just interesting seeing all that stuff how it came about. So what I will do is I will be putting a link to your company down below, and I'll endeavour to actually put out a few videos just kind of showing I have got Flea. I've not got Tapeworm, but I will stick a video out. So anyway, I'm just conscious of time, Ali. Yeah. We'll get on to the podcast. You know the script. I've asked Ali to pick 3 games that he would take to a desert island with him. These are the only 3 games that you'll ever get to play ever again. It can be anything. It can be an online game. I probably didn't tell you all that, but it can be an online game. And yeah, remarkably, there are people like in different part of the world that you can play against. I'll also ask you to pick 3 games that, for whatever reason, you want them completely obliterated from history for whatever reason. It might be what type of genre it kind of led on to. So I'm going to start with the good stuff first. I'm going to ask you to name your first game that you would take and just explain why you've picked it.
Yeah, I realised I could have taken a whole bunch of online ones that you can play infinitely, but I've not. Just ones that I really, really liked. So first one is Prince of Persia: Sands of Time on PS2, probably.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this was, I don't know, I think I was in high school, and it was the first game that did storytelling in a really, really cool way, where like if you died, it went, no, that's not how it happened. And it had this nice kind of narrative thread through it. I think everything was voiced as well, which I was really happy about, being dyslexic. And the time travel mechanic was just like, oh, games can do more than just be a kind of linear thing. It was such a nice twist on games. I think it kind of influenced how emulators and stuff work as well, because most emulators now have rewind buttons. And I don't know if would that have happened without Prince of Persia? I don't know.
Was that like one of the first games to kind of feature that? I do remember reading about it. It's not a game that I've played. I mean, I played the original Prince of Persia on whatever it was. Can't remember what computer. I mean, it came out for a lot of computers, but obviously they took, was it Jordan Mechner or Metcher or something? I think wrote the original. They've then obviously transposed a sort of two-dimensional game into 3D.
Yeah, but did a great job, because I did not like the old Prince of Persia, so I thought they were really clunky and stiff. And, just not
they
fun.
were.
Yeah,
They were
and then
slightly kind of tech demos, weren't they? I mean, it was astonishing
yeah,
animation, but the gameplay was a bit
yeah,
rubbish.
it looked nice when you watched it, but playing it was, yeah, it's not
A
my
bit of
type of
chore.
game.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
then, like, even the Prince of Persia: Sands of Time as well, the 3D, like, it usually had like fixed cameras and stuff, and just the movement felt so fluid, like jumping, and it was like a real, like, hardcore, like, game where you like a whole bunch of button combinations to make stuff happen. But then it was really like forgiving in the fact that it had that rewind, so you could mess up a few times and then rewind, and you could rewind to a whole bunch of different points, and it was so flexible, and yeah, it was the first time I was like, wow, this, I'd never thought of doing this in a game before.
So was it? Would you say it was the actual game itself that you like, or was it just the fact that it's got that mechanic?
The mechanic was definitely the draw to it, but
Yeah.
the game itself does. It's really, really good. Like, when you get in some of the longer sequences where you need to string together moves for a minute or two, it just feels so nice, and that's kind of been the grounding for what I like in a game, and like complex input systems that are almost like memorizing what you kind of need to do.
Yeah.
Which is kind of what you need to do in Flea and stuff as well. So.
It's actually interesting you're talking about that, because I was just looking at my Discord channel just before we started talking, and I don't know if you've heard, there's, you know how I can't remember what the name of the company is. They brought out the 64, which is an incarnation of the Commodore 64. Well, I've just announced the Spectrum. It's it's going to be, it looks the same as the old kind of 48K Spectrum, but one of the guys, they were talking about it, and they're saying apparently there's all the games you can rewind, and this one guy's like, I'm not interested in it. I'm not interested. That's not faithful to the original, and I'm kind of like that as well. I think that's a generational thing. I'm old school. I play. I mean, I was after I finished my work earlier on tonight, I was having a game of Defender, which is the hardest video game ever.
Yeah.
If you can play that, then you're a complete god. So having it's something that doesn't sit. I don't like the fact that you can rewind the game. I mean, I bought a game a couple of weeks ago, New Star GP, which is a fantastic Formula One game. It's very kind of arcadey, but if you hold down the X button, it rewinds like the last 20 seconds. And I refuse to use something like that, because that's not what video games are about. You've got to pay. If you crash, you've got to start again. Obviously, you're a different generation from me, right enough. But
yeah, I think it gives more accessibility to some of the games.
Oh, it does. Yeah,
definitely. But like, it changes the way you play some of the games. Like, I was playing like in an emulator. I think it may even been on the Xbox again, like Monster Boy 2, I think. It's just basically a side scroller, but I was playing it like an Infinite Runner, like back in the day, back in 2012 or something, where I was just holding right and jumping and shooting. And if I made a mistake, I would just rewind and it made me get to the end of the game in a different way that I wouldn't usually have played the game.
Yeah.
And I think it lets you get to the end of games, like finish games that you couldn't in the past. So that's kind of why I like it. And it's
Aye.
I don't know, where there was probably the rewind mechanic before Prince of Persia, but that was the one that I was made aware of it. So.
Yeah, I suppose, I mean, a game like mechanic and the game you're talking about where there is an end kind of does make sense, but can you imagine having like played Space Invaders and you die and I'll just rewind it? It's utterly pointless because you're never going to beat Space Invaders. You just get to the next screen, the next screen, the next screen.
There'll be a kill screen somewhere, won't there, where it runs out of memory?
Quite possibly. I don't actually know that. I mean, I know Donkey Kong crashes. I know Pac-Man crashes, but I don't know. I think Space Invaders is too bloody difficult. But I do get it. But it's a game I'll need to actually check out. So I do remember, I think Edge magazine, I think they really kind of had a big feature on, what do you call it, Prince of Persia Sands of Time. It's a game I've never actually played, but I've
it's really good. I remember, I think it was the first time I heard of E3. My friend was really into all that kind of stuff, and he was kind of bigging up this and Sphinx. And I think Sphinx Curse of the Mummy did not last the time the same way as Prince of Persia did. So I got really excited when they were talking about doing a remake of it, but then it didn't look very good. And then they cancelled it because the studio wasn't doing very well. But and I remember renting it from the video store and completing it in one night, I think, or 2 nights. I remember staying up really late and finishing it. So I quite like short games as well. I think it's like around 10 hours.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you in that. I kind of get bored. I mean, what was the game I was playing recently? And I mean, it's a fantastic game, Last of Us 2 on the PlayStation 4, and I mean, it's a phenomenal game, but it just went on and on.
It's half too long, isn't it?
And I got to a point. I thought, I just want this game to end now because whilst I'm enjoying it, I want to move on to something else. You know, I think there is a definite kind of. It's like a film, 4-hour films. No, it's like keep it to an hour and a half. So anyway, great choice. So I mean, presumably you've completed it.
Yeah, completed it. So that first time.
Yeah. Then, yeah. And would you? Why would you take it to the desert island? Is it a game that you would enjoy just playing through over and over and over again?
Yeah, there's a bunch of secrets and stuff, and yeah, I just want to play it.
That's the thing. I mean, I kind of equate a good game with like a good film. I mean, a lot of folks go, why would I want to play the game? I've completed it. But you watch a good film, like say Star Wars or something. Oh, I've seen it once. I don't want to ever watch it again.
Mm-hmm.
I've got films that I've seen 20, 30 times. So a good game is a good game, and a game that I've completed in every platform. Resident Evil 4, fantastic game, and I know what's going to happen. I know what's coming next. But it's such a good game, and it's the journey. Even though you know what's going to happen, you enjoy it. So it's totally get why you picked that one. So excellent. That was choice number 1. Choice number 2. What would you take?
Unfinished Swan.
I've heard of that. Is that a kind of black and white type game?
That's the one. Yeah. Again, it was another one that just kind of shook what I thought games were. In a really good way, and it was at the right time for me as well. It came out in my last year of university, where I was kind of doing experimental gameplay stuff and artistic rendering in games, and I was really excited about it. It's for anybody that doesn't know, it's a game where it starts off just a white screen, and then you press the fire button, and it throws a ball of paint, and then you like map out the world by throwing paint at the world. And it creates this nice abstract landscape of black and white. And then as the story goes on, they realize that it would be really hard to stretch that to a kind of 6-hour game. So they add shadows and stuff, but they tell it through a nice story and stuff. And again, it's all voiced, this kind of thing. It's like a nice kid's story. And every kind of new level area has a different art style. And it goes from like Hellboy-esque comic books to like... Escher style sketches and that kind of thing, Edward Gorey stuff, and I was absolutely floored by some of the experimentation it did, because it was exactly what I was experimenting with myself in university. It was just a really nice story, like nice simple mechanics. It's slightly hard to recommend because it is like a first-person twin stick game, and that like I remember trying to get past that hurdle of liking twin stick stuff. But that was back in the day where it wasn't the same control scheme between games. So before it got kind of standardized.
I'll need to check that out. Actually, Unfinished. I don't know why I know. I can't actually visualize it. But when you said the title, I knew it was
like black and white. Yeah.
yeah. Unfinished Swan. What? So do you well, obviously you're going to recommend playing it.
I played it on PS3 and I 100%ed it. Got all the secrets, that kind of thing. Started replaying it again recently because when you complete it all, it gives you the original demo that kind of greenlit the project as a kind of bonus feature, and that itself just completely blew me away. It is just the black and white. I think it might add some colors in for like skies and stuff later on, but it plays so well just with like shapes and negative spaces in a way that I'd not seen in video games before.
Yeah. There's a game, I can't remember what the hell it's called. Oh, it's on all the consoles, and you play the part. You run from left to right, and it's black and white. Well, it's a black silhouette against a kind of white sky, and you're a little boy.
Oh, Limbo.
Limbo, yeah.
That's an Xbox Live Arcade game, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's a fantastic game. I've never actually completed it, but it's beautiful the way
it just kind of ends. It's about 4 hours, and then you do one puzzle, and then it's just over. It's weird.
But, is it really? Right? Spoiler. Maybe I'm quite close to the end, and I don't know why, but yeah, it's quite bloody gruesome, especially when you get bloody giant spiders and that. But it's very simplistic, and it's interesting to see the art style that a lot of these indie kind of guys are actually taking. There was another one. There's Limbo, and there's another one similar to that. I can't remember for life of me what it's called.
Inside.
Is that by the same company?
I think it's the same guys, yeah.
Is it? Yeah, Inside. That's right.
They're both really good. Inside's got a whole bunch of like optional puzzles as you go through it, and yeah, it does a whole bunch of clever stuff.
Yeah, nice one. So, I mean, this Unfinished Swan, how long does it take to finish the game roughly?
It's about 6 hours, I think. That's my kind of sweet spot of.
Yeah.
To 100% it, you're probably 15 hours or something.
Yeah. So again, obviously, I mean, probably because of your age, you've picked like games that can be completed. And again, would you be quite happy? You've got another 50 years until we kick the bucket. These are the only games you can ever play. Would you quite happy to play that over and over again?
Yeah, maybe not. Yeah, so my next one I'll change to be something that is infinitely useful.
Yeah, because I think it's suffice to say, the Sands of Time is almost like, I'm not going to say interactive movie, but it's a journey, it's a story, and then it gets to an end. Unfinished Swan is obviously an experience. Yeah. High scores don't come into these ones at all, do they?
No, not at all.
Yep, it's the journey really. So, yeah, nice one. Third game that you would take.
So now I'm going to eeny meeny between the I've got an orange on my sheet, just in case. Right, I'm going to go for that one. Speedrunners.
Is that an actual game, Speedrunners?
Yeah, it's weird that it's basically called Speedrun, but with an S at the end.
Right. I'm not. I mean, I know. Okay. No, in fact, no, I don't. I'll let you explain to the listeners what that is.
Yeah, so it's like a competitive, usually kind of a 4-player, I think, where it's a bit like Micro Machines, but like an on-foot platformer racer. So a side scroller that you run around in a big loop. It usually loops around itself in a big circle, and the idea is to like last longer than everybody else. And you get a whole bunch of like traps and tools and stuff that you can use to stop people. You've got run, you've got boost, you've got a hook shot that has a really nice arc and swing to it, and just the feel of the wall jumping and stuff is really, really smooth. I played a lot of it in the office at lunch with people there, and then online and stuff. One of my flatmates got really annoyed at me because like it just has one tune all the time, I think, in the background. And he's like, I'm fed up with that tune, so we just come in and like mute it. And yeah, he said I'm better at that game than he would ever be at any game. So, I could definitely play that for
Speedrunners. Is that when did that come out? How old is it?
I don't know, maybe 2015, 2014.
Oh, so it's nice.
Kind of thing. It's PC mainly. I think it is out on consoles now as well. Because it came out on console while I was staying with these guys. So
I'll need to check that out. Is it on Steam again? Did you say?
It will be on Steam. Yeah.
Yeah.
Really, really fun game. But when you get two players that are really, really good at it, it takes a long time to finish a match.
Aye.
You're just waiting for someone to trip up.
Yeah, but I was actually on a video a couple of days ago with a guy, and we were just talking about the sort of positives and negatives of multiplayer. We're just saying how you can't beat having AI is all very well, but it's quite predictable and that kind of stuff. Especially if it's a kind of sports game or a kind of fast, kind of twitchy game, you can't beat just standing shoulder to shoulder with somebody and just
Yeah. It's seeing the person's reaction or whatever. I suppose there'll be no one else on the island with me, but
yeah.
But even online, like it's a bit laggy sometimes online, but
right.
Are really, really fast because there's certain ways, a bit like Micro Machines, where you'll go the kind of long way, and then as you're going through it, it'll trip a thing that makes the short way open, or vice versa. But again, if you get good at playing it, you can like skip that button and just completely screw people over.
Yeah.
There's a few choke points in each of the levels that you're like, oh, I'll need to save something so that he doesn't use his tool on me there.
So can you play it one player then? Or do
you can play it one player. It's got a kind of offline progression thing where you unlock different skins and stuff.
Yeah.
And there's different characters that the AI kind of plays slightly differently. There's some guys that always run really fast. There's guys that use tools a lot and that kind of thing.
Yeah. Have you got? I mean, obviously, I've seen Flea and that kind of stuff, but I mean, have you got a lot of experience of like programming AI into your games?
Weirdly, no. I don't have any. I don't think I've done any AI.
It must be difficult. It must be difficult to actually get that, and that's the problem with a lot of one-player games. The computer never makes mistakes, and that's one thing that I like about that Grand Prix game that I was playing. You're racing around, and the computer will like crash and hit into walls and get blowouts and that kind of stuff. So it does kind of feel like you're kind of racing against somebody. But listen, that's so you've got your Prince of Persia: Sands of Time. You've got your Unfinished Swan, which are both kind of games that you just enjoy, and then Speedrunners will. So would you get a high score or something in that game?
Yeah, I don't know. I've played it a lot, but usually multiplayer. So in the online modes, there might be, or the single player modes, there might be like speedrun times and stuff as well in it. So
yeah. One thing I love about like kind of racing type games is where you get to race against yourself. The ghost thing. That's great because it just encourages you to get quicker and quicker and quicker because you know that. Well, wait a minute, that was me. I just did that lap, so in theory, I should be able to at least match it, and it kind of keeps pushing you. So
racers in general, I don't like that much, but I like platformers and I like on-foot racers. I really like Greyman M as well, and Mirror's Edge was bloody amazing too.
I remember buying that, and I don't think I ever actually loaded it. Yeah.
Such a good game. It takes you a while to get used to the controls, but you can run so fast, and then it's got a really nice kind of ghost mode afterwards.
Okay, yeah. Worth checking out. Excellent. No, three fantastic games, and I'm certainly going to check out the Unfinished Swan and Speedrunners. So, just to bring the mood down slightly, it's like I said, it's not all jam and custard. I need you to pick 3 games that you just want erased from history. Like I said, it could be a bad game, it could be a game. I mean, there's people that have picked games that they said it's not a bad game, but I paid 40 quid for it and I completed it in 20 minutes. So, I kind of get that. So I'll let you explain to the listeners what game number 1, game of shame, what's that going to be?
I'm going to cheat on this one and just say all of the FIFAs. I just could not care about football games, and people talk about them way too much and play them all the time and spend way too much time on them. And they're planned obsolescence. The next one is going to release next year, and last year's is going to be worth £2 after it was 50 quid this year. So
Yeah.
it just really, really annoys me how popular they are, and how much they changed the kind of microtransactions in games like that Ultimate Team or whatever. Just made did a bad thing for the games industry, let's say.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I'm completely with you in that. I mean, I'm not being Scottish like yourself. I'm not a football fan really in any shape or form. I watch like Scotland when they qualify for a tournament, so I probably watch about 2 matches every 26 years. I love sensible soccer. I love a couple of games in the C64, whatever. But yeah, FIFA, it just leaves me completely dry. I think if you're massively into football, then you'd probably get excited. Oh, I can play as Lionel Messi, or I can play as whatever it is, the latest names. But you're absolutely right. I mean, you see the price of these games. They're 70 quid, and the microtransactions, and it's just, I mean, I remember a few years back, it was actually a thing where people would get their accounts hacked, and somebody has just stolen my son's FIFA account and it's worth like 500 quid. It's like, what do you mean?
Yeah,
The game's only
it's
40
ridiculous
quid.
how much they allow you to spend on it. It should be illegal. It should be regulated, because the Ultimate Team is gambling.
It is,
yeah.
Absolutely, it is gambling. Because, and my daughter she was buying the Roblox when she was younger. She was buying. I mean, she still plays Roblox to this day, but she was buying all these like loot crates or whatever the hell it was called, and it was like £5, and it was just like a random thing. I was, oh, did you get anything new? Nah. And it's gambling. It's absolutely.
There's no ecosystem. Well, there might be in Roblox. I've not played it too much, but like compared to something like Pokemon cards, like you could sell your Pokemon cards afterwards. It was an investment. Whereas this is just throwing money away. Like even when I was working at Kiwi, we could look at like who'd spent much money on stuff, and there was one guy spent 40 grand on fictional guns because they were in loot crates in our game. And I was like, that should not be allowed. So yeah, and FIFA was one of the things that has made it even worse. So I really don't like FIFA.
That's madness. No, I'm totally. I just I mean, I've signed up to is it Game Pass for the Xbox, and it was a few months ago. I thought like the FIFA was here. I thought I'll just download it and see what the fuss is about. And the minute it starts, it's got all this shitty music, and it's like, how do I play a game? I just want to fucking play? I don't want to create.
There's so many menus as well. Whenever I went to someone's house, they were like, "Oh, what rules do you want?" And they were spent 10 minutes in the menus before you even get in a game, and then you play this rubbish game of football. Like, no, for me.
Yeah. I mean, I think we could. I mean, I'm sure somebody's picked. I can't remember what game it was, but I'm sure somebody's picked. A game that kind of started the whole microtransactions. That really. But if I ever like play a game, and it'll say, I'm old school. I want to, like, if you play Zelda on the SNES or whatever it is, you get a key and eventually get in a dungeon, and then you find a sword. It's like, oh, I've got the such and such a thing sword. Fantastic, I've earned it. I'm not interested in spending money to buy something, or I don't want to have to wait for like 40 hours to get it. And this microtransactions thing, in fact, my daughter was talking about it tonight actually when we were out in the car. She was just saying that she loves like Overwatch, but she hates Overwatch 2 with a passion, and it's to do with the whole microtransactions. But yeah, apart from anything, even take away the microtransactions, FIFA is completely dull and sterile.
I just don't like the game either. I never got the controls. I don't know where the skill is here. Like if you're both doing it, I don't know.
No, I'm completely with you. Yeah. So yeah, we're going to lose all the FIFA footballs. Yep, no arguments in that one. Right, your game of shame number 2.
Now my next ones are going to be weird, in that I kind of like them, but at the same time there was better versions of them. So the second game is The Smurfs 2: The Prisoner of the Green Stone. This one that came out like last year.
The Smurfs 2.
Yeah, I really like the Smurfs. And a couple years ago, the Smurfs Mission Velief came out, and it was the best, like the most fun I've had with a like 3D platformer in years. It's really, really nice hidden secrets, nice length, and like the Smurf theming, which was just really, really cool. And then I was really excited for the Smurfs 2 coming out, and they kind of changed it a bit. They made it more of a third person shooter. They gave you this gun basically, and I don't really like guns that much, so yeah, it just kind of ruined the game. And they removed a whole bunch of the cool hidden secrets and collectibles as well. So just because it left a bit of a sour taste in my mouth after a very, very good game, I'd like to get rid of that one from my memory.
Just obliterate it completely. So what platform is that on then?
It's on all modern stuff, so PS4, PS5, and Xbox One.
So that's when you and I, you can tell the age gap. When you said the Smurfs 2, I immediately thought of the ColecoVision.
Oh, really?
there was a Smurfs game on the ColecoVision. That's the only system I know that actually had a Smurfs game. Yeah, you need to check it out. It's this kind of sideways Super Mario type game. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
I would imagine like a Lemmings game would be really good theme-wise for the Smurfs.
Aye, I wonder.
They're all kind of walking along and stuff. I'll need to pitch it to them at some point. I got a random email off the people that own the IP saying, "Do I want to make a game for them?" Because
really?
It was as the new movies and stuff were coming up. They were like,
"Yeah,
we're putting out this IP. Does anyone want to do it?" Which is weirdly where the Mission Vélif contract would have came from in the first place. But I think they released quite a few under different companies.
Aye. I'll need to take a look. So what was it? What was the Smurfs one you reckon is worth playing?
It's the Smurfs Mission Vélif. It's like village but leaf at the end.
Oh, Vélif, right? Okay.
Yeah. It's got weirdly long load times on the PS4. The PS5 might be slightly better, but the game itself was so much fun. And especially if you like Smurfs, it was really, really good.
My sister has actually got, I think she's got probably one of the biggest collection of Smurfs. The little, the little sort of like 1.5-inch models.
Yeah.
She's been collecting them since, for probably about 40.
That's okay. If she play games, she'll love
it. Yeah, she's been collecting them since, I don't know, the mid-70s, and she must have about 1,000 or something. She's incredible, brilliant. Excellent. Right, your last game of shame.
Pokemon Snap on Switch. For a similar reason. Like, I really, really like Pokemon Snap 1, although it did feel a wee bit short. Like, I completed it the first night I played it and was expecting much more. But it did have a bunch of replay value. But Pokemon Snap on Switch tried to just do more of the same, but again, it had so many menus and stuff you had to read. And it did this. It faked me out at a point because there was at the beginning it says, "Do you want an English voice or a Japanese voice?" I was like, "Oh my god, they're going to do full voice acting in this game. It's going to be amazing." And then they don't. It's just random quips they say. They're like, "Hey, yeah," that kind of stuff. And then just so much text. So I kept getting stuck at random gates just because I wasn't reading stuff properly. I was like, I don't know how to progress the game, all that kind of stuff. Like the actual game itself is fine. But they also added these horrible long boss levels where I don't even know what you're supposed to do. There's one where Meganium comes out and you just follow him around a track for 5 minutes. And the first time I did it, I got to the end and had lots of photos of him, but didn't pass the level. I don't know. Again, I had to read something to figure out what to do. It was just really annoying. And the thing that made it even more annoying was that I'd played another game recently, like just before it, called Pinko Park, which was like a love letter to the first Pokemon Snap, and it did it so well. And I was just hoping that Nintendo were going to steal some of the ideas from it. Just the way that they had like this little scrapbook that had all the things that you could take pictures of in every different pose, and like you had to throw stuff at them to like make them annoyed and that kind of thing. And you got all these little bonuses. And it filled it in as you got them, and it was such a nice progression loop. And I was just so disappointed in the Pokemon Snap one because it didn't have any of that. And I'm sure it had a whole bunch of, you could just walk around the kind of Pokemon Center and look at all the Pokemon that do nothing.
Yeah.
So it was really just a missed opportunity. And
So did they actually exclude some of the features from the first one then?
I don't think they excluded anything. They just added more guff that I don't care about.
Aye.
Aye.
It's a funny thing that I mean, I can imagine making sequels can be quite tricky because if a game is really popular, it's going to be popular for like A, B, and C. And if you just put out the same game again, folks, oh, you're just like a cash cow. You've just done that. So I suppose I could imagine there's a bit of an urge to say, well, we'll make it the same, but we'll add this and we'll add this and we'll enable this ability and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, and again, the conversation I had with my daughter earlier on about what you call it. What was that game I was talking about? Overwatch. She was saying, yeah, they just added too much and made it complicated, and they can just take a perfectly good game and just break it. And that's
because you can add more mechanics without it being complex. Like, and this just seemed like it added more menus and other stuff that I just didn't want.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I mean, that's part of the reason I've never really got into a lot of like sort of Nintendo games, because especially the kind of adventure type games, because the amount of times you're just X, skip. I remember
all the Pokemon games, generally.
One of my probably the best golf game ever is Golf by Nintendo on the Game Boy. Game Boy. It's a fantastic game. You know, obviously black and white, and you know you could play 2 players and all that kind of bollocks. And when the Game Boy Advance came out, they brought out Golf, or I think they might have called it Mario Golf or something. And I thought, oh, fantastic, get it. And then when you start, it's like you're playing an RPG. It's like you've got to go and talk to him. You got to go. I'm like, oh fuck this! I actually just got fed up. I got angry with it. I thought I've been playing for half an hour and I hadn't even got remotely to hitting a ball. You know, by all means.
I played a bunch of weird golf games, like in kind of research for that other golf game I was making.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of bad ones out
there. I'm sure some people love the whole immersiveness, but by all means, if you want to keep that in, that's fine. But at least give us an option where you can
mode,
just
jump straight in. I played the new Mario Golf, and it was kind of like that as well. Like it had this cool thing where it was everybody taking all their shots at once. It was basically a race at golf. I was like, that sounds great. And then I played it. I was like, this is rubbish.
Yeah, I mean, I bought, what the hell was it? I think, in fact, it was on the bloody GameCube. Super Mario Strikers or something. It's a football game, and it's actually really good. It's like there's about 5 players. It's really easy to play. But then you've got all these stupid powers where like the whole screen freezes, and Donkey Kong will do this impossible to save shot, and that's not fucking sport. That's just like a gimmick. And it just by all means, if you want to have that in there, that's fine. But at least give us the option just to play it properly. So. Yeah, totally with you.
It's not a football game, so it's just not on my list at all.
If you're going to play a football game, and I know you don't like football, if you are going to play a football game, play International Superstar Soccer, but you've got to play it's on the SNES, because I don't know if you remember, there was an Italian player called Roberto Baggio, and all that. You had like the ponytail. It's fantastic, but what really makes this game is it's got Japanese commentary, and you haven't a clue what they're saying, but it's just absolutely mental. Like when you score a goal, it's like go 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 go, and as he's doing that, the guy's running about, way, and it's just fucking mental. It's brilliant, pure arcade, great fun, really really good game. But
my friend did recommend FIFA Street. He's like, it's like a football game, but it's like a football game you've never played. I think it's a bit more in the kind of Mario Strikers vein, but again, I've never played it.
Just before we kind of wrap this one up, Ali, you're talking about the pricey games. I was up at CEX, it was the one in Glasgow about a year ago, and there was I was just having a look, and I think it was at the Xbox 360 or the PlayStation 3, whatever it was, and I saw it was the International Superstar Soccer, which was always a much better game. And it was I think it was like International Superstar Soccer, I don't know, 2008, and it was 5 pence. So I bought it. But as you say, you know that, I mean, well, what year are we now? We're at 2024, so FIFA 25 will no doubt be out. But if you go to CX or go on eBay right now, you can probably pick up FIFA 2024 for about £3 or something.
Yeah.
And it's
Although,
the same.
no, technically,
Yeah.
if you're to buy any, I think buy last year's FIFA because they lost the license and it's now EAFC or something like that.
Yes,
Some nonsense.
something like that. Something like that.
So technically, FIFA is gone, but it's living on as something else.
Unfortunately. Listen, Ali, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on. Before you go, obviously you've got Flea, you've got Flea 2. What would the third one be called?
It could be in Flea D.
I was wanting you to say Flea 3.
Flea 3. Flea the third. There's so many threes and stuff. On Steam, it's £3.33 because it rhymes with flea. No other reason.
Awesome stuff, mate. Listen, I'm going to thanks for everyone that's listened to this. I'm going to put a link to Ali's site and where you can download all these fantastic games. Please let me know, Ali, when your latest games come out. If you're ever looking for a bug tester or anything, just hit me up, mate. And I'll get you back on the channel again if you fancy it at some other point.
Cool. Sounds good.
Fantastic. Take care. Thanks, Ali.
Cool. Thanks for having me.
Cheers, buddy.
Bye.
Take care.